Hello, I'm Michael Riley, and I'm interviewing Paul Riley, who is a partner of Vanguard Architects, which is a subsidiary of Vanguard Equities. Would you mind telling me a bit about your professional background prior to starting your company?
Yes, I'm a registered architect. I'm registered in 8 states. I've worked for a number of firms around the country as a architect and developer.
All right, can you tell us a little bit about your company and your duties there?
The company Vanguard Architects is a subsidiary of Vanguard Equities, and what we do is we are an architecture and interior design firm that designs and builds signature commercial real estate projects.
What made you decide to leave your previous employer and start up your own company?
Well, I've worked with a number of firms around the country, as I said earlier, and I was always promoted to the highest level of senior associate, as high as you can get before you become a partner, and did not ever want to invest the money into someone else's firm. So eventually I decided I needed to invest in myself and go out and start my own business.
All right. What or who was the inspiration to start up your business?
Well, I've had lots of different inspirations. Obviously, all of my previous employers were inspirations as they have already gone through that whole process of starting their own firms and going out on their own. But my biggest influence was probably my father, who was chief of construction and contracting at NASA. And when he eventually retired, he went out and started his own construction company and had a much better time doing his own thing rather than working for the government. So I'd say that he was my biggest inspiration. But obviously working for lots of different firms and seeing how that they went out on their own and invested, in themselves and believed in themselves were, my secondary inspirations.
All right. Did you have a business plan to work off of, or some other company or person that you looked to emulate?
I didn't really have a written business plan necessarily, but obviously with working with a number of other firms, from very large firms to medium-sized firms to small firms, I took, parts of each of those of what I liked, what I didn't like, and tried to incorporate the pieces that I did like and tried to avoid all the things that I criticized over the years that I worked for them. So I took the best of what I felt was how I would work and used those pieces to set up my own plan.
Were there any aspects that you wanted to bring to, like any specific aspects you wanted to bring to your company?
Specific aspects. Wanted to be, rather than a company that goes out and markets to tons and tons of people just blindly, I wanted to have a firm that people came to me and wanted me to do the work that I did. So I wasn't a big marketing oriented firm. So that's one thing I tried to avoid. I want people to come to me.
I'm sorry. How did you decide on your legal business structure, such as proprietorship, corporation, or something else?
Well, it's real interesting. I took an entrepreneurship class while I was in college, and they told us about all the different types of legal structures that were out and available at that time and how they recommended to set things up. But of course, many years later, I didn't remember any of that stuff. So I saw the different legal structures of the different businesses that I worked for, and I worked for different things such as incorporated things, limited liability companies, limited liability partnerships, etc. And I really didn't understand those as much as I probably should have when I was going out on my own. But I did have the foresight to go out and talk to an attorney and find out what their recommendation was for us. And then I also talked to a tax accountant to make sure that those all jived so that we would have the same goals in mind of, being able to maximize the amount of money we could make, of shelter, whatever we're doing, as well as make sure that we are, protecting ourselves from, the various liabilities that we have as a business.
How much time did it take to get the whole business up and running?
Well, I didn't have a lot of capital to invest, so I took my time with doing it, but the key is once I decided that I didn't want to work for somebody else anymore, we sat down with a partner that I was working with, and we talked about going out on our own. And the first thing that we needed to do was find our first made project. So we both started doing cold calls, and within virtually a week or two, we had found somebody that wanted to hire us for who and what we did. So it really didn't take very long. The overall process of moving from working for somebody else to having our own business and being out the door was about a couple months from initially trying to do the marketing and landing the project and signing a contract.
And you said you didn't have a lot of capital to start with. How much money did it take to get everything started in the end?
Well, it really didn't take hardly any money at all. Because we really didn't have a whole lot of money. So we created our own business cards, we did our own marketing plan, we did our own brochures, we did all that ourselves with, the equipment that we had at our old firms or we have personally. And so we created all those things. We, didn't have really any big money invested other than, a few materials that we had to purchase, a few $100s essentially.
And then when you were looking for a location to start up, what aspects were you looking for?
So location's really key to a design firm. So when we first started off, obviously we didn't have a lot of money. So we decided that we would work out of my partner's home, and we took over the first floor of her row home and created kind of a funky office there. We rarely had any clients come to our office, and we always went to our clients, so that wasn't too important. But eventually when we had our own office, we wanted to take our time to find the right place, to find us something that, stood out and spoke to what we did. And we found a small carriage house in Mount Vernon that we occupied for the next 7 years.
All right. You said that your marketing was pretty basic. How exactly did you get your name out there?
So marketing for us was 99% was word of mouth and us cold calling. So basically we called everybody that we knew in the profession, people that we worked with in the past, client representatives from other projects that we worked on in our history. We called contractors, we called sales reps, we called everybody to see if anybody had any leads that we could follow up on. And so that was the majority of our marketing, was just straight up cold calls.
Does your company have a website? And if so, why did you build one and who maintains it?
We do have a website. It's not a very good one, I'll have to admit. We created it originally. We didn't have a lot of money, like I said earlier, but we needed to have our presence out there on the web because everybody else does. So we collaborated with an individual to design and create it. He did the programming and the scripting of it, but we told him what we wanted. And it was primarily just to get our presence out there, to show a little bit of sample work and to have our name and address and contact information out there.
Okay, so what are the licensing requirements for your business?
So licensing, as an architect, you have to have state registrations as an architect, and I hold 8 different registrations. So any state that you practice in, you have to have that license.
What kind of information technology do you use for your business?
So for information technology, we have a server-based file sharing system in our office, and everybody logs into that computer system and just shares computer files there. Everybody works on CAD, they work on Microsoft Word, Excel. So the CAD's obviously to do the drawings that we do. Word and Excel are used for spreadsheets, for specifications, etc. like that. We also use QuickBooks for our financial management.
All right. How do you go about selecting employees, and what are the most important qualities of an employee?
Selecting employees is really difficult. The best way to find an employee is through word of mouth again. It's who you know, who knows who, so that when they're coming to us, we know something about them. We know a lot more about their history, what they can do, what their personalities are, etc. So that's always been the best way to find employees. The second way is obviously advertising in the newspaper and more recently with Craigslist. But you get tons and tons of resumes, and it's very difficult to go through a written resume to find out, what someone's real capabilities are when you're talking about design or background, how talented someone is. So often when we get the resumes, you kind of go through them and you have to see or find something that makes them stand out, it makes them unique. So that's a difficult part of finding people. What was the second part of the question?
And what kind of qualities do you look for in them? That was the second part.
We're looking for someone who is unique, who is talented design-wise, who has ability to stand out all by themselves and presents themselves well.
And what is your view on incorporating family into the workplace?
So incorporating family is always a tricky thing. Everybody has different expectations of what they want to do, what they think they deserve, or that sort of thing. But I truly believe that, having family with similar interests and motives is always a good thing. And we've been trying to promote that. The business that we've grown has changed from just being a design firm to being a development firm, which also then has property management and other aspects. So there's lots of different things that people with family could contribute to it or take up and, investigate new avenues of business. So it's rather important to be able to, promote that for the future.
What would you say was the most difficult part of your own business?
The most difficult part for me was to actually take the leap and have the faith in myself to go out and actually do it on my own. The fear of failure, the fear of not being able to get enough work to support my family, etc., like that was the biggest fear that I had. But once I did it, I can't imagine going back to work for someone else. So the biggest fear was also the easiest part at the end of the day.
All right. And then what about your business would you consider to be the biggest success that you've had?
The biggest success, obviously, all the design awards that we've received for the recognition for the types of projects we do. Whenever you get complimented for what you do and how you do from unsolicited people, that's always just such a nice pat on the back that you're doing something good.
All right, and I think that's everything. Thank you very much for taking your time to be interviewed by me.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.